Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Jolene with Jovi's Star Astrology, and I will be going over Libra season with you today. The sun has entered Libra, and there's a lot going on during Libra season, at least astrologically. So I will break that down. I'm going to take a look, or we're going to talk about and take a look at the equinox chart. So that is the chart of the time, the exact time that the sun entered into Libra, which also signifies the equinox, as I said, and um, the changing of the season. So it's the fall equinox. Basically, the change of this season is that the days get shorter and the nights get longer, and we know that it starts to cool down, which here in Arizona, we have been patiently waiting for quite some time, and it is starting to do that, which is awesome. But the chart for the equinox is something that I wanted to go over because it kind of gives us an idea of what this season might be primarily colored with in terms of astrological energies. So that would be for the next 3 months. So I'm going to go over that chart with you, and we'll talk a little bit about where the planets are positioned and what that might mean. Now, you might be asking yourself or asking the screen, like, well, what does this matter? We have an equinox every year in Libra. So why is it different and why is the chart significant? Well, because Libra is ruled by Venus, and a lot of how we look at this, and we'll look at this next 3 months, is based on what Venus is doing, right? So, last year and the year before, and, I'm sure there have been some years where Venus was also in Leo, not for a couple of years though, at least, but 18 months it takes her. But Venus is generally in a different place every time we start the fall equinox. So that is a significant factor in looking at the ruler of the sun in Libra, which is where it's at the time of the equinox. So we'll take a look at where the placements are and what we might be able to expect, at least in the collective, for the next 3 months. And maybe, sort of take stock of what's going on in your life right now. And because Venus is obviously a factor, and we know we just came out of Venus retrograde. So 4 months where Venus was sort of the star of the show, astrologically, she obviously remains the star of the show, at least during Libra season and possibly for the next 3 months. And of course, because we have the South Node in Libra, she will remain significant. Her position will remain very, very important through the nodal transit, as well as the planet Mars, which just happens to be right now in the sign of Libra. So Venus and Mars, very, very important astrologically right now. So before I pull the chart up, I want to kind of just go through a list that I made that kind of gives you the rundown of some dates, planetary dates and changes that will be occurring over the next 3 months between now and the time the winter solstice rolls around in December, when the sun goes into Capricorn. And so important is this is the time of year where a lot of the planets that have been retrograde start to come out of retrograde. So they start to wake up, and we're not processing those energies so much internally. We start to see how they're being expressed outwardly, right, for us and for the collective. I think when it comes to the outer planets collectively, we still see those outer planets express, obviously, out there, but maybe it's pared down a little bit, or we are actually contemplating the effects of those things ourselves a little bit a little bit more. But rundown on the planets that will be coming out of retrograde during the next 3 months are Pluto. Pluto, which is currently transiting retrograde, the very last degrees of Capricorn, will be stationing and going direct on October the 11th, where he will move eventually back into 0 degrees Aquarius. And I have like so many things about Pluto in Aquarius that I want to talk about in the coming months. Well, Pluto will be in Aquarius for a really long time. So the conversation can go on for an infinite amount of time. But Pluto will be going direct October 11th and eventually hitting Aquarius again. Now, next year, when Pluto goes retrograde again, like it does every year, we'll drop back into Capricorn just for a bit and then permanently move forward in the sign of Aquarius for the next 20 years. We have Saturn that has been retrograde in the sign of Pisces, going direct on November the 5th. And Saturn went into Pisces back in March of this year, moved forward to about 7 degrees, and now has retraced its steps back to 0 degrees of almost 0 degrees. It's not 0 degrees now, but it will be by the time it stations to start moving direct 0 degrees of Pisces. So this is retracking, Saturn's retracking its steps in Pisces from March to June, these last few months while it's in retrograde, and will retrace its steps back between 0 and 7 degrees, and then of course move forward. Neptune will go direct on December the 7th. Neptune is in Pisces, the later degrees of Pisces, and will start to move forward on December the 7th. Jupiter will come out of its retrograde on the 31st of December. That will leave us for 2023 with the planet Uranus that will not move direct until January 2024. And of course, we'll be in another Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, which we'll talk about all that later. So important to know that I think that during these next 3 months, we have all of the planets coming out of retrograde. Not unusual, but good to note. We also have eclipse season that we're coming into, and the eclipses are occurring in Libra season in October. One of them, October 14th, which will be a solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus. And October 28th, by that time we'll be in Scorpio season. The eclipse on October 28th will be in the sign of Taurus, and that will be a lunar eclipse. And sort of that is the eclipse that will wrap up the nodal transit of Taurus and Scorpio that we were going through since 2021. So sort of be prepared that, some kind of theme that we've already gone through, maybe wrapping itself up, showing its face again, requiring us to make some decisions, something like that with this lunar eclipse on October 28th in the sign of Taurus. So wanted to go over those dates with you. Of course, during the next 3 months, we have, after October, we have new and full moons in November and December, which I'll go over at another time. But let's get to the chart and just kind of take a look and see what is going on here at the beginning of Libra season, the fall equinox here. Okay, so we have I have to move my things around here. One of these days I'll get like a really cool setup again. I had one before, but anyway, I changed it. All right, so here we have the sun, 0 degrees of Libra, which signifies the fall equinox. And that occurred where I'm at on September 22nd, which was last Friday. very late in the day, 11:51 p.m., so almost midnight, which means that it occurred at almost 3 a.m. on the East Coast. So, adjust your time zone for wherever you are at. Definitely, if you're in other parts of the world, this would affect you the next day. And in the southern part of the southern part of uh, the world, the southern part of the world. This is a time where they're going into spring, so it's kind of a flip flop back and forth. But we'll stay focused here on what's going on in the northern part of the world right now. But this actually affects everybody. But anyway, I'm in North America. So I have a habit of kind of getting stuck there, but you can exchange concepts here. So we have the sun over here in Libra, 0 degrees. So what is Libra? Libra, ruled by Venus, is all about relationships, other people, negotiating, mediating, looking at, fairness and equality within relationships of all kinds, right? Ruled by Venus, we in Libra season, we have a tendency to focus in on, being a little bit more agreeable within our relationships, trying to balance things out. Libra is the sign of balance. So that is basically explains the sun in Libra. Now we look at Venus here, which we know has been in Leo. And so Venus definitely affects the sun in the sign of Libra. Now, interestingly, the sun rules Libra or Leo, and Venus rules Libra. So they're in mutual reception, and they are in a sextile, which is a harmonious aspect, which means they can communicate with one another. There's the opportunity to communicate with one another. So it's a nice aspect, the sun and Venus working together. So when we think about the start of the season and what the next 3 months might be like, and we're thinking about things like relationships and negotiations and balance and fairness, and of course beauty and love and art and all of those things, having Venus, the ruler in Leo, which is all about our own personal expression and having fun. And I've talked about the Venus and Leo a lot. Venus represents finances and money. It represents Leo represents our expression, our joy, it's romance. It represents children. And so with the sun in Leo, the focus here is still, right? Venus in Leo, except now with this sextile, they may be understanding each other a little bit better. And we might be able to, balance things out a little bit easier, right? Between what we want and what is going on within our relationships with other people. Or, because they're talking to each other, we might be able to get a sense at this point of what's not working, what we don't want, and what we do want. So, they can support one another. So we also look at the moon here, because the moon is about, yes, our emotions, but it's also about the environment. And in a mundane chart, when we're talking about, what this might signify for the next 3 months, it can represent the people. And so we have the moon in Capricorn. And that is all about Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. So it's very serious. It's all about our work and our commitments. Saturn can create fear in some instances and separation, but really I think it's about our that we might see that the focus here in the next 3 months in general is going to be about our stability and our work, and how we might be presenting ourselves out there in public. So we might really be seeing a lot of, sort of serious, somber kind of attitudes, and going into the holiday season. When I think about this, I'm like, well, I think people are going to be more conservative during this season. And I think because the moon is coloring this in the sign of Capricorn, I think we are going to hear a lot about businesses and organizations and structures, and maybe a lot about politics and leaders and things like that in the next 3 months. But overall, I think we see sort of a serious kind of practical attitude with everybody as we go into this holiday season. And maybe, right, maybe our focus is going to be on what we truly love, right? And not finding that we're not spreading ourselves too thin. Now, Venus representing money, we're talking about the holiday season, I guess. Some people could go overboard. We've already had that, we've been dealing with that dance between Venus and Jupiter, which just made its third aspect with Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Taurus, which has been part of the Venus retrograde story since June. And we will be seeing Venus come into its third square with Uranus here right around the time of the full moon in Aries, which is at the end of the week on the 29th. I'll talk about that when I do the full moon in Aries video. But yes, when you see a Venus in the sign of Leo, which is all about what I want, I want what I want when I want it kind of thing, can be. And then Jupiter over there, which can expand and, kind of go overboard potentially when it comes to finances and, purchases and things like that. Indulgences, some people could be experiencing that way. And if that is coloring, if we're going with the idea that these energies are coloring the next 3 months, there could be some people that are not being as practical as others, although I think most of us will be. I think Jupiter also, especially in Taurus, also represents rich people, really rich people. So maybe nothing changes there for those folks, but I think as a rule, the people and the attitude is going to be a little bit more serious. And again, I think we'll hear a lot about businesses and how we spend our money over the next 3 months. Okay. So we also will have Venus that's ruling the South Node, right? Which are things we're familiar with, things that, we might be processing from the past in some way or letting go of in some way. The nodes are very important, right? Over the next 18, well, it's not quite 18 months now, but more than a year. And we have Mars in Libra. Mars doesn't like it in Libra. Why? Because its home sign, which is Aries, is on the opposite side of the zodiac. And so we have Mars in the sign of Libra, also affecting things that might be going on, and also ruling Venus. And so it can go a couple of ways as usual. I mean, Mars in the sign of Libra is going to fight for equality, right? We could find that we're having issues within relationships, that there's actually fighting, but it can also be negotiations. It can also be legal issues. It can be what's right and what's fair. And we know that there are strikes going on, right? The auto workers, and of course, talking about hearing about businesses. So we have the auto workers strike. And I think I read this morning something about the the service people in Las Vegas, that there is a threat of a strike looming there because of fair pay. So these might be the kinds of things that we see coming up. Now, Mars in Libra can work very positively if we can balance out, a lot of this Aries, right? Because Mars over here, normally ruling Aries, is really about getting things done and taking action. They're both cardinal signs. It's weakened a little bit in Libra, which, might be a good thing if we're looking at, mediating something, whether that be something legal or having to do with our work life or our personal relationships. We can use the sort of tempered Mars here to negotiate, right? In some way, get what it is that we need for ourselves, Aries, right? The sign of the self, and the other, right? Mars. Now, it depends on who we're dealing with and what the mindset is, who's in control and who feels like they're more powerful as to how those things turn out. But all we can do is be responsible for what it is that we do. But the South Node is very important in that, ruled by Venus, and Mars is there, and it's relationships. We could have things, coming back that we have to deal with around relationships or money, right? They could be aggressive, but again, negotiating and balancing things out is what we're looking for. I think we're going to see a lot of those types of things going on the next 3 months, and you might see those things occurring in your own life. Now, we have Mercury at the time of the equinox sitting in Virgo still, right? Having come out of a retrograde, and will be trining Jupiter. And this is actually a really nice aspect. So Mercury in the sign of Virgo is about work and health and our schedules and routines. And I talked about this before. It's about the common people, the workers, the service industry, and our health. So, healthcare people as well as service. Well, we've heard a lot of people in healthcare speak out, and there's concern there, as well as now the service industry. Incidentally, Mercury also represents automobiles, and I mentioned the auto strike, so it's kind of interesting there. But this gives the trine here represents an opportunity to actually negotiate those things out, come up with some ways of resolving things and working through things. And there is obviously a very serious, attitude when it comes to those types of things. And we might be feeling that as well, personally. So, Mercury having gone through a retrograde in Virgo, coming out now, still having not yet hit the degree, 21 degrees, where it began its retrograde, there's still a bit of review. So chances are the things that are going on, they've been brewing for a while, not to mention the summer-long Venus retrograde, which again rules Libra. So I think what we're seeing here is, some of the end results or effects of the summer going into and still affecting us through this season. But now I think it's stability we're looking for, right? It's commitment. It is, what can we work towards? And, the beginning of the season, Mercury trining the moon gives us a very serious attitude, but gives us the opportunity to actually work through things, bring things to the table. If we don't talk about the things that don't work, whether it has to do with our work or, our relationships, it doesn't mean that everything's healthy, right? It just means that we're not putting it out on the table. Underneath it all, there can be hurt feelings, repressed anger, imbalances. And, the North Node in Aries is kind of asking us, and will be asking us to heal, those expressions, the expressions of the self, and, you know, discuss things, talk about things, balance things out. If things aren't working, let things go. And Mars can do that, right? It can give us an opportunity to sort of cut the things out that, aren't making us feel, powerful and free and, happy and, all of the things, and sort of like, sort of free to move and express ourselves. Aries, very powerful. If we're feeling held back, it's a cardinal energy. That doesn't always make for a good balanced type of situation, a relationship, or emotional feeling, right? So Mars ruling the North Node and Venus ruling the South Node. The Sun in Libra ruled by Venus. We had to look at some of those things going on in the next 3 months as we get through the holiday season. Let me know, like, what are you planning on doing for the holiday season? Is it going to be more traditional? Are you going to, sort of just focus on family, practicality, right? Like only making, certain commitments, or are you feeling like you just want to spend it by yourself, right? Saturn rules the moon, and the moon, it can be, like I said, it can have you feeling a little bit fearful, and maybe, even kind of a little bit depressed, right? Especially with the ruler of the moon over here in the sign of Pisces, at the time of this chart at 1 degree, where we're kind of like going inward anyway, and maybe feeling, emotionally strained or separated, just kind of trying to process internally our emotions and our feelings. So, I mean, we know that the holiday season can kind of be difficult for some people depending on their backgrounds. So, it could be a tough season for money, right? For how people are feeling in terms of, whether they feel joyful, whatever their situations are, if they're struggling with the work situation, if they're making enough, not making enough money, if they don't feel that something's fair, if there's in a relationship that they don't seem to be able to balance. The moon in Capricorn is significant in the next 3 months. So I just think this has to do with a lot of, working on ourselves and keeping an eye out for, the balance in situations, including our emotions. And so that is how I see the chart in the next 3 months, and the things that we might be seeing. There's also something else that I noticed was when it comes to business, right? And I mentioned, Pluto going back into Aquarius in 2024, but it just makes me think with the moon in Capricorn, and Pluto finishing up its run in Capricorn before it goes back into Aquarius in 2024, is really just kind of getting down to business. And it might be a good time to sort of review when it comes to your commitments, or your work, how things have changed since 2008, and, what you have done or what you have observed or experienced in terms of changes in your sense of commitment, or how you view the world and, organizations and Capricornian type things, which has, everything to do with business and banking and things like that. A lot has changed in the last 15, is it 15 years? 2008, yeah, about 15 years. And what are we going into now that Pluto is going into Aquarius? I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And I thought a lot about this sort of like they're coexisting, the moon here at the time of the equinox and Pluto both in Capricorn. I thought a lot about, gee, like how did things change for me in 2008? And it sort of drew me right to my work, which at the time was in healthcare as a consultant. And that was at the time when we had the housing issue and the banking issue. And, it was a really intense time financially for everybody. And it affected my business and completely turned it around in terms of what the focus would be for my work going forward. And before that, there was probably about 12 years before that when Pluto was in Sagittarius, where most of what I did was start up medical practices, right, from the ground up. I just did them one after the other. It was very easy to throw a business plan out and get funding for people. And then the collapse happened in 2008 and 2009, and all of that went away. And my business shifted from starting new things in healthcare to actually trying to revive old businesses, right? So re-engineering and reorganization of the foundations, Capricorn, of older businesses. So I reflecting back on how things have affected me helps me understand astrology a little bit better, but maybe useful for you to think about that and take a look at that. Okay, so that is the next, that's the equinox, right? And what we might be looking towards over the next 3 months, the eclipses, the planets coming out of retrograde. I'm going to go ahead here and do a quick little, the beginning of Libra season horoscope for each rising sign. So if you don't know your rising sign, go online, do a birth chart calculation and find out what your rising sign is. And your rising sign is the sign over here. So I'll do with the rising sign. You can listen to it for your sun sign. It would just mean that you would count whatever house your sun sign is in as the first house, and then go from there, which gets a little bit confusing. But anyway, rising sign is what I recommend. So we have the chart here for the rising sign. I'll get a little bit more personal when it comes to the horoscopes. But for Aries rising, right, your ruler is Mars, which is over there in the 7th house of relationships, along with the sun. So there's a very big focus here for you on relationships with other people or a specific person, because Venus is ruling the 5th house. There's a sextile. This could be romance, creative expression, engagements. This could have to do with negotiating things when it comes to our children. I can see this as, children becoming a little bit older, a little bit more independent, wanting to spread their wings, and they're kind of, Mars, they're just kind of, empty nesting it. It could be something like that. For Aries, this Libra season is really going to be about your relationships and finding balance. And that, again, can be any kind of relationship, a partnership, a personal relationship, a romantic relationship, right? It could even be, like I said, bringing something to the next level in terms of relationships, right? So that would be Aries rising in Libra season. Okay, let's go to I'm gonna change this. Now I didn't think about this when I went to do this. Here we go. All right, Taurus. So for Taurus rising, ruled by Venus, right? Taurus rising, Your ruler is Venus. So this Venus retrograde during the summer has really affected you. It's been retrograding through your fourth house of the home and family. So chances are you've really had to engage in some kind of issue when it comes to your home life. Or your family could have something to do with female relatives because Venus is represents females, but it could also be because it represents money, spending money on a home. A lot of changes for you over the summer here, Taurus rising, with Venus squaring from the fourth house of the home and family to your first house, where there have been a lot of changes in you, right? How you express yourself, how you show up. You may have been a little bit unpredictable and sort of just kind of creating a new you. And so that continues. We still have those squares going on, but now in Libra season, right? So Venus here in your fourth house, the sun has moved into your sixth house, which is about work and schedules. And of course, Libra about regarding relationships. So there could be something going on. It could actually be working on a house or hiring people to help you. You could have a relationship like a partner that you're working with regarding something that has to do with your home and family, sort of settling things, maybe even taking care of a female relative. Could be anything like that. Mars over here in the sixth house, which is also ruled by Venus, this could have you very busy in your work life with people that you work with, as well as just things going on in the day to day, right? Your duties, working on a house, right? This really looks to me like maybe. A lot is going on with your home and your family. You have the South Node there, ruled by Venus. So, this could be negotiating things that have to do with the relationship regarding, money. It could have been something coming back in, just sort of negotiating like who has time for what, who's going to pay for this, who's going to, take care of, I don't know, the house, the landscaping, all of those kinds of things. Also, Mars in the sixth house can be dealing with issues with coworkers, right? So depending on how that's expressing, Mars could all of a sudden bring up some issues with people really wanting you to do things for them in terms of your work, or, controversies or issues or arguments when it comes to coworkers or people that you have to deal with or work with every day. You might be holding your ground here, right? With the moon up there in Capricorn in the ninth house, which is a sign of your beliefs. You're probably been pretty serious about what it is that you want, or you've really thought about it. It can also signify that your environment has to do with learning something new when it comes to work. And there's a trine there to Mercury in the sign of Virgo. So Mercury is learning, and the fifth house is, self-employment as well as creative expression. So it could be something creative. Lots going on there for Taurus rising ruled by Venus. One thing that is really important is you have Mars, the ruler of the North Node in your sixth house, which is also health. And I didn't say that a minute ago, but Mars in Libra, that can really take a toll. There could be a health issue coming up. And with the North Node and Chiron in your 12th house, which is sort of behind the scenes or a blind spot in some way, you could be dealing with a lot of repressed anger or not feeling physically energetic, right? The North Node is saying you've got to let some of that out, whether it be physically or by talking to somebody, sixth house, finding somebody who can help you work through that, even a doctor. But with Mars in your sixth house, you want to be really careful about your health. And Libra, ruled by Venus, has to do with things like kidneys and the skin, the lower back, right? So like your lumbar. So Taurus rising, keep that in mind. With the South Node there, could be, a prior injury or something coming back up that you have to deal with. Okay. All right. We'll flip now to Gemini rising. And for Gemini rising, we have the sun over here in Libra in the fifth house of creativity, right? Which is children and romance, um, self-employment, creative projects. This is making a trine to your ascendant, which is nice. So this Libra energy, even with Mars there, can bring in a lot of creative abilities, the drive to actually do those things. There can be some new romantic situations going on. It could also mean that, you're dealing with things when it comes to your children. And Venus over here in the third house, which is the mind, right? And the immediate environment. Something going on here, maybe with a sibling, with a car, within your immediate environment, any kind of, like immediate relative, or just overall your communication. This Venus retrograde probably has had you maybe pulling in a little bit and trying to work behind the scenes on what it is that and how it is that you express yourself, what kind of things you're trying to grow and work on. Having Jupiter and Uranus in your 12th house, it can be some things that are unexpected that come out of nowhere, but it can be, sort of a very spiritual type thing. But the sun going into Libra, trining, that kind of breaks up those squares a little bit. And I think now things might start moving forward, Mars. Things can move forward. Maybe you have conversations with people that you have needed to have for a long time. Mars ruling the North Node and Chiron up here in Aries can be some healing, right? It's like maybe some of the things that you were hoping and dreaming for actually start to move forward. This might have to do with friends and networks. Maybe socially, you start to get, quite a bit more active, physically as well. Health clubs, groups, the moon in the eighth house, along with Pluto starting the season out. It has to do with other people's money. You could really be pulling back in terms of what you're putting on credit, how you're spending your money. Be careful that, there aren't bills due. But what your obligations are when it comes to other people might really be something that you're taking a serious look at in the next 3 months. You have Saturn at the top of your chart in Pisces, which is your career and how you're seen out there in the public, so your reputation. So you're really probably, trying to work something, restructure something around, how it is that people see you and what your work's going to be. Maybe you're feeling a little bit lost, trying to restructure things. And the next 3 months could, especially as Saturn starts to move forward again, you're going to retrace your steps. So you get a bit of a do-over. Maybe it's a little bit more clear now. Mercury, your chart ruler, is in the fourth house. So you could have been working on these things behind the scenes, right? Or maybe you were feeling a little bit of pressure between home life and work life, causing some confusion, right? This has been tough, squaring your ascendant. But, Mercury in the fourth house, good for, creating and moving things around in your home life, like working on a foundation, right? It might have something to do with a family member that needs something, some kind of help. Just, it seems like there's been a little tension there. But now that the sun is going into Libra, I think that things will get a little easier, and you might feel a little bit more expressive and be able to sort of start things. And that could have everything to do with other people coming in, things lightening up a little bit. So hopefully it works out that way for you, and that Mars over there in Libra doesn't bring in some kind of issue or, fight or controversy, with a romantic partner or a child or people that you might work with, in your business. So, all right. That is Gemini. So we'll move to Cancer rising. So for Cancer rising, you're ruled by the moon, obviously, and we were talking about the moon over here coloring this equinox chart sitting in your seventh house. So there will be a lot of focus on relationships, right? Your emotions within relationships, changes possibly within relationships. Again, Capricorn represents commitment and work. So those might be highlighted. We have the sun in Libra, Mars in Libra, South Node in Libra, all ruled by Venus over here in Leo, which is in your second house, which is the house of your earned income, as well as your resources in general, things you possess, and your own personal self-esteem. So with this, this Venus retrograde over the summer, this probably really has you fighting for, your own self-expression, right? Something like what makes you feel good, what makes you feel, empowered, right? And having a lot to do with probably trying to choose between the 11th house, how you help other people or how you associate with other people, the things that you want and you hope for, when it comes to your work, possibly, or just people in general, and how you need to create stability for yourself, right? So a lot of changes could have been occurring, conversations back and forth types of things with this Venus retrograde over the summer. And now we have the sun moving into Libra in your fourth house, Mars moving into Libra already in the fourth house, and the South Node, again, all ruled by Venus. There's a sextile there. This is in the house of your home and family, and your could actually be your home or a family issue. So, this might have something to do with money and family, your expression and your self-esteem and family. There could be some kind of negotiation that you have to have. Maybe there could be a little bit of, kind of issues coming up with family where you have to stand your ground. And, it's cardinal. You're a cardinal sign. So the sun is cardinal. This is hitting your angles, right? The moon will be on an angle. You have Aries up here. So this Mars is ruling your career. So there's something going on here between, what you want to do for yourself, what your family is going on with your family, and your relationships and your work, your career, and how you're earning money. So there's some kind of something changing. Cardinal wants to take action. Something's changing. Maybe, and I would assume that you're taking liberties in terms of expressing yourself and trying to make a commitment to actually do what it is that you need to do for yourself to feel more secure. Saturn up here in the ninth house, of your beliefs. You might be taking a really hard look at your beliefs. You might be expressing yourself a little bit more emotionally and really letting people know where you stand. That's possible. But overall, between your relationships, your home, yourself, and your work, this next 3 months might have you seeing some changes there, mostly because of possibly your finances or the things that you need to do. So I see it as a pretty expressive month that might be coming along with a lot of changes. And with Mars ruling this North Node, this could be a change in your status as well. It doesn't have to be your career, but definitely career, and how you're seen out there in the world is coming up. So that should be interesting for Cancer rising. Okay, moving on to, I'm going to try and get through these as quick as I can. Moving on to Leo. So you have Leo rising. Now we know, so Leo over here ruled by the sun. So wherever the sun goes, Leo, it affects you in some way. And you've had the sun in Libra is in your third house, which is your immediate environment, your siblings, potentially relatives, just communication in general, how you're thinking, how you're communicating with other people. And you've had Venus in your first house, which is all about you and how you present. So I could see you really feeling like you need to be you, and letting people know that. Could be changes in your appearance, maybe working out, just or how you express yourself in general. And I don't know. Maybe that comes, maybe now the communication, maybe is coming with that. The sun is being ruled by Venus in your first house. So I don't know, could even be like a new car or just a new way of expressing, negotiating something for yourself, third house. Should be interesting. You have Mars in Libra also being ruled by Venus in the first house in Leo. So, maybe you're getting out of town, right? Third house is also short trips. I don't know, maybe you're getting out of town. Uh, Mars rules the ninth house of long distance trips. So, yeah, it could be a lot about traveling. Maybe there's a new you. It could be traveling for work, because Venus also rules your 10th house of career. So it could just be that you become very popular. There's a lot more work. Things have been expanding, changing, growing. Could have been a lot of just going in a new direction when it comes to work. And yeah, a lot going on here for Leo rising. Looks pretty positive. Maybe you're a little bit worried about money. This can also have something to do with the partner, moon here in the sixth house. Um, Another thing to be careful of is to not overwork or do too much, because having the moon in the sixth house in Capricorn, again, house of health, the house of routines, you might feel really saddled with responsibility in your immediate environment. You might be feeling that emotionally, with Saturn, the ruler of the moon, over here in the eighth house of other people's resources. There might be a lot of pressure. Maybe it has to do with, paying bills off, or it has something to do with the partner. But yeah, because the house of health, you want to be pretty careful to take care of your mental health with Venus here in the first house in Leo, getting active, and sort of, expressing what it is that you want to do, or need to do for yourself, despite the demands at work. Should be pretty easy for you to do and for you to negotiate and communicate, right? Now that you have all of this stuff going on, the Sun, Mars, and the South Node in the third house. So your health and your mental health, also Capricorn rules things like the knees and ligaments and just your overall body structure, your teeth, so if something like that's coming up, you probably want to, pay some attention to that. But that could be how the next 3 months are looking for you potentially. Let's see. I mean, with Mercury here, if you are having some issues, Mercury, the mind, really, communicating, figuring out a way to actually take care of yourself. Second house, what you possess, what you own, what your own personal self-esteem is. Trine there. If you're having any trouble physically or emotionally, that trine should be beneficial and helpful to you. Okay, so next we have Virgo. Okay, Virgo rising. Virgo. Here you are, Virgo, ruled by Mercury, which is in your first house. So things may be ramping up. You might have a lot to say, These days, you might be working on yourself, right? Expressing yourself, working on yourself physically. The sun is moving into Libra in your second house of self-esteem and also your resources, earned income. So definitely a focus there. Mars there in the second house. There might be a little bit of change there in terms of what your work is. You might start seeing how you feel about yourself, right? Your own self-esteem. You might start to see that maybe if there are some challenges there, there's sort of like making you feel like you're going to rise to the occasion, or possibly that you're losing some kind of support financially. That's possible. Venus, the ruler, has been traveling in retrograde in your 12th house. So, a lot of things that you can't see. You might have been holding back a lot of your feelings and your expressions, the things that truly want, right? Maybe thinking a lot about those things, but not really talking a lot about it, or knowing how to talk about those things. That as Venus moves into your first house, I think that will change. But as Mercury has moved into your first house and the Sun and Mars moving into your second, things could come up that actually start to put you in a place where you feel like you can express yourself. The square has been to your ninth house, which is your beliefs, education. So there could have been a lot of changes there, a lot of changes in like how you see things, how you see yourself, what you want to see happen for yourself going into the future, sort of the bigger picture. But the sun going into Libra for the next 3 months, with this kind of, I think this is going to be working a lot on, the things that you have and how you feel about yourself. And that could be physically or financially. The ruler, Mars, rules the North Node. So you got the North Node over here in Aries. And this is a lot about being independent, or something that might be new that's coming around the bend in terms of how somebody else might be able to help you, other people's money or resources, right? Something might come to you. Maybe it's a loss of something, but then you're gaining something else, and it might have something to do with your own personal independence, away from feeling obligated to other people, possibly. With the moon in Capricorn in your fifth house of your expression, creativity. Listen, Virgo, this trines. So that's why I'm pointing this out. So you have a nice Earth trine going on. So this can really keep you grounded in the next 3 months, especially if Saturn and Pisces over here in your relationship house is kind of, maybe having you feel a little bit uncertain about relationships. But this Earth trine here from your ascendant, this is very, very nice in terms of grounding. And I think with the moon in Capricorn, Virgo risings, with the fifth house Capricorn, they tend to be pretty serious about how they express themselves, who they want to associate with. The kinds of things creatively that they do are usually very traditional. This could be a time where you're really working on those kinds of things and sort of, matching it to how you see yourself in the world, what you're learning, what you're growing into, and how you're expressing yourself or changing yourself. And all of this could be a focus for the next 3 months. It looks like it's all about you, right? And I think you're thinking into the future. How do I become more independent? Do I lose, this could, having a Mars in the second house, you might have to negotiate something around your resources or how you're taken care of, or again, something changes, shuffles around, or there's some kind of issue. But ultimately, with the North Node in Aries, this is about finding your own independence and, having the planets and Earth where they are. I think that you're in a very practical and grounded place. And overall, your plan for how you're going to move forward, right? And create something in your life, whether that be how you're educated, or what your beliefs are, or how you make money. I think that it'll be a good time for you to do that. I think this is a very positive. This will be pretty positive next 3 months here for Virgo rising. I kind of like it for Virgo. Okay. Well, moving on. Libra. Sorry, Libra rising. Okay, Libra. So this retrograde and this equinox in the next 3 months, Venus is still in the spotlight, which means you are still in the spotlight, Libra rising, ruled by Venus, right? So we have Venus over here in the 11th house. This is a lot about your acquaintances, the people you associate with, what it is that you want, what you hope and dream for. Venus has been retrograde in your 11th house, so you could have seen a lot of back and forth changes. Who are you affiliated with? How are you making money? Has it been up and down? Have you felt like you're losing friends but gaining other friends? Could have been a lot of changes in that way, and could have also affected somehow your finances over there in the 8th house. So maybe you paid off debt, maybe things were up and down, maybe 8th house is about obligations. It can be about partnerships and the shared resources, right? So you might have seen a lot of twists and turns and changes between what people out there think you owe them. It's like people coming in and out, really wanting things from you. Maybe you are just it's just been a back and forth, kind of like a twist and turn of like things that you weren't expecting when it comes to people you come in contact with, and shared resources, right? Could be good, could be bad, just sort of looks like a shuffling around. But now with the sun moving into your 1st house, Venus is the ruler, it looks pretty positive in terms of having some kind of new networks coming in that could help you, give you a higher visibility, right? Which could help your income if it's been financial. Mars here in your 1st house has you getting potentially active, right? Or something is going on that you're negotiating with a partner, because Mars rules your 7th house of relationships, and there is action there, right? Maybe you're pulling back from a relationship, or maybe you're negotiating and balancing out a relationship. Just there's movement there when it comes to in your personal life, in your physical reality. And it could also be, actual changes for you in how it is that you show up and within a relationship of some sort. This could also mean that you pull away from a relationship and you're more, you're in a more independent place, Aries, or it could mean something new happening within a relationship, right? That has you very busy, concerned about your appearance, even. South Node there, this could be something that you've been dealing with for a while. Something coming back in, could have to do with a person that you used to know, or just a change in an existing relationship, just kind of going back to an issue, like renegotiating something, redoing something. There's a change here somehow in you, something new, right? I have a friend who has a 0-degree Libra rising, and I asked him last week, I was talking about the equinox and Libra season, and I said to him, I'm like, tell me, because you have a 0-degree Libra rising, which means that, there's probably some physical change for you every year around this time. And at first he was like, oh, I don't know. And then, I said, well, look back, 9 years and 18 years, and there were some very significant changes in him and in his relationships during those times. We were just looking at the notes, but And there's something significant coming up for him too in the next 2 weeks, which probably has not just to do with the sun moving into Libra and the equinox in the next 3 months, but also the eclipses, the eclipse in Libra coming up. But interesting that it is a brand new start. When the sun goes into your first house, there's something about you and your expression that is starting new. It will be new. It'll look new to everybody else. It'll be new for you. And this likely has to do with relationships because Mars is the ruler of your relationship house. Also, with the moon in the fourth house and Pluto in the fourth house, this is a change in your home and your foundation potentially, which could positively change your resources, right? Your shared resources, help you with debt, things like that. Be careful with Saturn over here in your sixth house. Be careful, kind of like with Leo, you want to be careful of your emotional health and your physical health with Saturn there in the sixth house. And that's going to go on for a couple of years. It's not just now, but yeah. And, also with Mercury here in Virgo traveling through your 12th house, whatever's going on here in this situation with your home, with your family, right? It's likely going on behind the scenes. Hopefully it's not something that pops up out of nowhere that you don't see, because the 12th house can be what's hidden. But this could just be something that is going on privately, right? Okay. So we're going to move on to, we're getting close, guys. Are you still with me? We're going to move on to Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio rising. All right, Scorpio. So Scorpio rising ruler, one of your rulers is Mars. So we have Mars in Libra, as well as the sun in Libra and the North Node in Libra, all traveling through your 12th house of what's hidden, the subconscious, things that are private. A lot going on behind the scenes, could potentially be something regarding a relationship. Libra, Mars kind of clearing things out subconsciously, could be very active in your dreams, could be issues and problems going on behind the scenes. You could be letting go of a relationship. 12th house is one of the more mysterious houses. Sometimes it can be happening, in the dream world itself, or just in private, right? Now, because Mars rules your sixth house, it's a house of health, and the North Node is there. Whatever's going on, I think, is designed for you to become more independent, to start something new when it comes to how you take care of yourself, how you take care of other people, your health. Obviously, listen, Mars in the 12th house could actually represent a hospital or a surgery, especially when you have a sixth house Aries. So hopefully you're not dealing with something that has to do with your health. But Mars rules surgeons, and the 12th house is surgery. Libra could be cosmetic, could be something with the kidneys, like I said before, something with the skin or your lower back. So hopefully you're not having any issues with the South Node there. Could be something that you have dealt with before. So likely it's going to be relational, clearing that out, or it could be your health. Just really want to watch your health with Venus, the ruler of the sun and Mars and the South Node, up here in your 10th house of career and your public reputation, squaring for the last 3 months, everything in your 7th house. A lot of changes when it comes to possibly your work and your status, how people see you and your relationships. Could have been changes in your work in terms of clientele, could have been an up and down, could have been a relationship. Something has been changing and definitely moving you back and forth. And, now it just might be a process, like you're processing it, you're negotiating it out, whether it has to do with your health or whether it has to do with how you're seen out there and a relationship or business partners, something that you're working on behind the scenes in some way, negotiating out, sort of separating yourself one from possibly, or just a lot of contemplation. Mars in the 12th house too can be repressed anger over relationship, but South Node there, it's probably not new. Could be something coming back in. Again, watch your dreams. We have the moon over here in the 3rd house, which is your immediate environment, how you think and communicate. So, moon there in the 3rd house, serious, that's your mind. Take care of your mind. It's going to be in a practical place, but again, the moon in Capricorn can be fear and depression. You want to really watch that because those will be squares, right? You're going to be experiencing squares to from your 12th house to your 3rd house of the mind, 9th house. Well, your beliefs, your overall beliefs. So there will be a cardinal square, and it's in the 12th and the 6th house. So health and your mental state, your immediate environment, something could be changing there. So it could be interesting for Scorpio rising. This could be, some endings, clearing out some past issues and karma, moving you into, a new place, a new beginning, a new level of healing. I hope that's the case for Scorpio rising. Okay, moving on to Sagittarius. All right, Sag. So Sagittarius rising. We have the sun in Libra going into your 11th house, along with Mars and the South Node, all ruled by Venus in the sign of Leo, which is in the 9th house. Of your beliefs, of what you might be learning, self-development. It's about the self. It's also about long distance journeys, right? So you could find yourself in any kind of situation relating to any of those topics. And the 11th house is about who you're affiliated with, what your hopes and dreams are, groups, networks, maybe from work or acquaintances or friends. Mars being in there, you may have friends come back into your life. There's a focus here on the 11th house. Who are you associating with? 5th house, children, creativity, romance, a new start there. Mars, you could be leaving behind old friends or people that you were associated with and moving on to something new. The South Node there could indicates that it's something that it's coming back for you to deal with again. Chances are it's not old. Could be clearing out past life karma around friends, right? Or people that you know or who you're affiliated with. But with Venus ruling all of this Libra in the 9th house, again, what are you learning? What are your beliefs in terms of your own personal happiness and expression? And is there something going on with traveling, right? Foreign lands. You're ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter's over here in the 6th house. So it's about work, and you've got Uranus there, right? Co-present. So, what's going on with work and coworkers, and are there changes there? It is the house of health and routine. So with Uranus there, unpredictable, right? For a while, Jupiter, there may be some expansion and some learning and teaching, and then some contraction with it going retrograde. So that's affecting you. Are you having to, pick up work for other people or take care of other people? All those kinds of 6th house things. Venus also rules Taurus. So there's a connection, teaching, and your daily habits or what you believe in, and actually, having time to do what you want to do, whether it's travel or express yourself or learn something new, and what you have and are responsible for doing in the day-to-day. 6th house, Taurus, right? 2nd house, Capricorn. This is, some kind of a serious situation, potentially emotional situation that could be affecting your earned income or your self-esteem. And Saturn, which is the ruler of the moon in Pisces in your fourth house, something about your home and your foundation, your family, right? Saturn can be restriction. In Pisces, it can be, sadness, an ending. Saturn in the fourth house can represent problems or issues that have to be dealt with when it comes to home and family. It also represents the end of matters, the fourth house, when a planet goes through the end of matter. It could be with a father, just could be with a family member. It could just be something that's going on in your overall home environment or where you're living that you're having to deal with, or that is maybe causing some kind of heaviness or potentially a block there. And that is related to your second house, which is your earned income. So look for those things in the next 3 months, Sag rising. All right, then we have Capricorn rising. Okay, so Capricorn, you're ruled by Saturn. You've got the sun moving in to your 10th house of career, along with Mars and the South Node. So this is how you're seen out in public, your actual career and commitments. And Mars ruling the North Node. And Venus, that's been retrograding back and forth over here in your 8th house of other people's resources. So there may have been something going on with a loan or money when it comes. You may have had to speak up or really try to express yourself or do some soul searching in terms of who you want to affiliate with. And because Venus is represents money and the 8th house is a money house, this could have to do with loans, trying to acquire money to do something, or just something going on with money that you share with somebody else potentially. Now Venus is ruling all of this Taurus, so a lot of back and forth in the 5th house, which is your creativity and your expression, possibly your work in some way, or what you do creatively. And maybe even this could be, maybe you're trying to state a case or express yourself in terms of maybe a loan, something that you need to create possibly a business of some sort. That's a possibility. But you've definitely got to highlight on your career here and how you're being seen. There's a sextile there. So this could be, you could be working in junction. This could be a complete change in your career potentially, and possibly something that you're having to negotiate on behalf of that change of career. Could be problems in your career. That's things that are coming back for you to have to deal with, right? That could be affecting your home, your foundation, where you're living. There's a lot going on here, obviously, for Capricorn rising. Saturn is your chart ruler. And so on top of that, the moon in the 1st house, this could be very, very serious in terms of your personal self-expression. Saturn ruling this moon in the 1st house, this could be restriction of movement, physical movement, or this could be emotional, right? And with Saturn in the 3rd house, I mentioned that for another sign in the inverse, you want to probably try and take care of your health, your physical health and your mental health for sure. With Saturn in the 3rd house of communication and the mind. But you do have the trines too, like Virgo, right? Creating an earth trine. So Mercury up here in the 9th house, probably your expressions, right? And how you do your work, who you work with. 9th house can be consultations, people that help us, like gurus, even like doctors, for instance. So if you're needing some help in any way to learn something more about yourself, if it's, has to do with your home and your foundation, or has to do with your mental health or your physical health, having that Earth trine there could bring people in that are going to help you. Could be friends, could be neighbors, could be a relationship with a doctor, or you could just be doing a lot of research, right? Mercury rules your sixth house, so that's health. Could be a doctor or a practitioner of some sort that is coming in to help you out, or you're consulting potentially. But anyway, Capricorn rising, changes in your work environment and your home environment, and you have a very strong Earth trine there that can help you if you're struggling in terms of like physical movement or feeling emotionally flat potentially. Otherwise, you could just be feeling pretty serious about your, where you're at and where you're going. Okay. Aquarius rising. Okay, Aquarius. So, Aquarius, we have the sun moving in to Libra in your ninth house, co-present with Mars and the South Node, the ninth house of your beliefs and education, the bigger picture, right? Opening up your mind in some way. Ninth house also, and when I think about Libra and Mars there and the sun there and the South Node, ninth house is also legal issues. So this kind of looks to me like there's potential for some kind of legal issue or education issue that could be coming back around, something that requires you to potentially have a mediator or a lawyer that's helping you. If it is a court issue, or maybe a counselor or somebody to sort of help you figure out if it's education. Probably ninth house is also foreign travel. If you're going to travel, you might have a little bit of issues, like, so make sure you have passports and all that stuff put together. But, it could affect, it's going to require you to come to learn how to communicate and negotiate differently, possibly in a new way. Aries, North Node, Chiron, in the third house. This could also represent your immediate environment, your transportation could have something to do with the legal issue with a car, could have something to do with the sibling. There's some kind of potential, opening up of the mind, or learning something else, or learning something new rather, something about your beliefs, or possibly a legal issue. You have the moon over here in your 12th house, sort of like possibly making things feel a bit heavy over the next 3 months. And again, because the moon rules your sixth house of health, watching, like mental health and physical health, very, very important for Aquarius rising in the next 3 months. You're ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces in the second house, really affecting your earned income and your self-esteem. This is requiring you to probably get very serious about what it is that you do for a living, or at least planning, how your resources are going to support you, how you're going to make money. And maybe this is working behind the scenes on that, but this might be something that's troubling you, right? And if you were to have a health issue come along, might put a crick in that. Potentially, this has to do with opening up your mind, learning something new, and potentially a legal issue. You've had Venus in your seventh house going retrograde, so that you could have been having a back and forth or some issues with a partner and a living situation, home situation. Mercury in the eighth house, ruling your fifth house here of children and creativity. This could have to do with support for a child, housing, something between your relationships in general that is kind of been back and forth, like who's going to live where, possibly, who supports who, things like that. And in the next 3 months, there could be some things that are going on that are requiring you to get super serious, but that could also be bringing up some kind of fear or heaviness for you. But this all in communication here, I think. Whatever's going on, how you negotiate and communicate, and maybe who you have help you do that, or learn something new about yourself, or this is about learning how to communicate. That Mars in Libra can really be helpful. Chances are it's not an old situation, but I think the notes here wanting you to handle it differently. So it looks like the next 3 months could have you dealing with some of those kinds of things. All right. So I think we are on Pisces. Finally, right? Pisces. Okay. All right, Pisces. Last but not least, and I know everybody says that, but it's true. Pisces always goes last. Okay, Pisces rising. So you have the sun in Libra going into your 8th house of shared resources and debt, obligations, soul contracts. And it is a money house, but it can also be a house that talks about karmic debt. So there's a highlight, there's a spotlight there, right? So this could be with Mars there, settling something or arguing about shared resources. The South Node, there's things could be coming back up where that's concerned. Could be affecting your earned income and your self-esteem. You could be getting pretty feisty these days if you are dealing with something like that. Venus is the ruler of the sun, the South Node, and Mars, in as well as Mars ruling the North Node. So because Mars is in Venus, that I mentioned in the beginning, Venus has everything to do with this. And Venus has been retrograding in your 6th house of day-to-day routines, habits, health. You might have really been trying to flex your muscles and express yourself, and maybe running into a lot of issues in the day-to-day. This is also the house of health. So, you could, your expressions could have felt repressed or like pulled in a bunch of different directions. And maybe you haven't felt like you can actually express yourself or take care of yourself, and just focus on you. But it might be, other people need you. It's the house of service, potentially. Important to really, this is with this retrograde, I don't know, you could have seen, issues with your health or your blood pressure, things like that, or just overall not feeling joyful, or feeling like a back and forth kind of thing, because it's been squaring all of this Taurus in the 3rd house of communication. Could have been because 6th house can be troubles and problems and issues. Squaring could have been problems with cars, right? But this could have just been a lot of fire and a lot of heat when it comes to money, right? Finances, and expression. And it could have been relating to relationships, right? It could have been problems with coworkers or just a relationship issue. So now that Mars and the sun are coming into Libra in your 8th house, if this can be if whatever's going on, if this is like perfect time for a mediator, for balancing things out, for seeing both sides. You can actually come out of it with less debt, or receiving something, or at least a balanced situation could come out of all of this. If that's what you're dealing with. It's also 8th house, is the Scorpio house, the house of sex. Something changing for sure. Mars does really well in the 8th house. So whatever's going on, the transformation of that, or the deepening of that, let's say it's, intimacy, could be very, very positive results, a very, very kind of fun time with Mars transiting the 8th house, ruled by Venus. So this could be, a time where you start to feel better and where your relationships deepen, and where you really find that whatever the things that you share with other people, that they've been negotiated out, that you're feeling better about things, again, maybe less debt, and it's affecting your giving you a sort of a new lease on life in terms of how you feel about yourself. Your resources might be increasing, and there might be a new start there. This could be pretty positive here for you, Pisces, hopefully. You have Saturn in your first house and the moon ruled by Saturn in your 11th house. So, this could be pulling away from friends and networks, focused on how you might be working on those things coming into the future, or how those things have changed and what you want to do in terms of who you associate with, relationships. There's a trine, Mercury to the moon in Capricorn, but Saturn over here, which is ruling that moon in the first house in Pisces, really might have you wanting to kind of be by yourself and be quiet. Again, Saturn in Pisces is feelings, it's sensitivity. And in the first house at 1 degree, which is an Aries degree, the self. Yeah, good time to work on yourself, physically, exercise, put a structure together, Saturn, but definitely physical and emotional isolation is something that you probably want to keep an eye on. With the mutable signs, it's been kind of tough. I've talked about that before. But maybe somebody comes in, a friend, a client, a doctor, maybe you're advocating on behalf of somebody. Maybe Mercury, the mind. Mercury also rules the 4th house. Maybe something with a relative. Maybe there's a move in home because of a partnership of some sort, and that kind of pulls you out of that separative sort of emotional feeling. Maybe pulls you into sort of more of an authoritative sort of presence emotionally for somebody else, possibly. If not, it's a good time for you to look for somebody that, people that you can trust, that you can talk to. Having Mercury in the 7th house there. Having a trine to the 3rd house, this could have something to do with fluctuations when it comes to your immediate environment, or how you're feeling, thoughts, communication, or a sibling or a family member, possibly. With all of this being ruled by Venus in your 6th house. Oh, we went over that. Yeah. So I already went over that. I'm going to go back over it again. No. Anyway, so that's what things could be looking like in the next 3 months for Pisces rising. Hopefully that was helpful. I don't do the horoscopes a lot because they take so long, but I did it today. And hopefully that was helpful. I'll try to timestamp them at some point, but I'll probably put the video out before I do the timestamps. So there you go. I'm going to stop the share. So hopefully that was helpful. Just kind of gives you an idea of where the planets were positioned and how they might be talking to one another and affecting our lives and our environment in the next 3 months. Keep in mind that with the Mercury retrograde from this Mercury in Virgo to when it goes retrograde again in Capricorn, that a lot of those Mercury in Virgo things that came up, we're kind of going to be dealing with those things, and things came up during the retrograde between now and the time that Mercury goes into Capricorn and we have the next retrograde. So just a little bit of a look at the equinox chart and what the season might look like for all of us and for all of you individually. We have a full moon coming up on Friday, the 29th, in the sign of Aries, and there are some things shifting around that time too that are going to play into this full moon. And so I will do a video on the full moon here. It's Tuesday, Today is Tuesday, the 26th. So I have 3 days. So I will do that sometime in the next 2 or 3 days. And I'll try and do the rising signs for that too. But anyway, let me know what's going on for you, how you feel the flavor of this next 3 months will be for you, or what you're seeing out there in the world, and whether or not any of that resonates. I know it does for me. I'm a Gemini rising. It makes complete sense for me. And I'd like to hear how it is affecting you. So, yeah, I will see you in a couple of days. Thanks for coming back and listening. Please like, subscribe, and share. I would really appreciate it if you'd like to take a look at your chart, see what's going on for you the next 3 months, or with any of these eclipses coming up. Get a hold of me. My email and my website are down below in the description box. And I would love to meet you. Otherwise, I'll see you very shortly, very soon. Take good care. Until then, may the stars forever be in your favor. Bye for now.